Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Luening, Horst Luening. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com, and today we have the FAQs number 10. So quite a lot have accumulated. 2 more to go and a year has passed. Yeah, there was a question from a user in our forum, I think, and he asked me what are the most common uneducated comments and opinions you hear casual whiskey drinkers say. You hear from casual whiskey drinkers. So I avoid saying whiskey drinkers. Connoisseurs is the right word. The drinkers, they typically do not look after, well, the taste of a whiskey. Just the result is what counts. Yeah, so the most often heard sentence is, older whiskies are better than younger ones. Is that true? Not always. If you look at this bottle, this is an open. I think I had it already here in my cask. And this one is called the Manager's Choice. And it's a single cask selection. And this is the best of the best, sir, from the Oban Distillery. And it was distilled in 2000 and bottled in 2009, so just 9 years old. And 27 judges from the Oban Distillery, as well as the parent company and the sister companies in Diageo, the biggest spirits producer in the world, they choose this cask to be the best cask the Oban Distillery ever, or had, no, ever is the wrong word, had in that moment on display. So a young whiskey was chosen by really experts, the master blender of Diageo, the distillery manager of Oban, the distillery manager of Royal Honaga, the distillery manager of 27 of those highly trained and skilled whiskey connoisseurs. They said this one is the best from Oban. The reason for this is whiskey matures a little bit different. There are different influences over time on the whiskey. One is the subtractive maturation, where the unwanted substances vanish over the years. And after a few years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, then the youthness of a whiskey is gone. This is important. And in the meantime, tasting compounds from the cask move into the whiskey. The alcohol extracts those caramel, vanilla, coconut, sherry, and so on, tastes from the cask walls, from the staves, into the whiskey. And the best whiskey is that one where the young subtractive maturation has finished and the addition of aromas came to a level where it's equal with the distillery character itself, which comes from the pot stills typically. And on this perfect peak of taste, the peak of perfection, then you have to bottle the whiskey and not wait another 20 years. Then the whiskey might be over the top. So older whiskies are better than younger whiskies? No, this is commonly heard, but it's not always true. Expensive whiskey is better than unexpensive. Can't say that really. There is a slight influence or parallelity between the price and the taste. But from time to time you find rare bottles which rose in price extraordinarily in comparison to the rest of the market. Those limited edition from the, well, you know which companies typically offer those bottles. They are No, they aren't better than the typical unexpensive whiskies. They are just different. And this difference, well, let the price raise. There's a supply and asking in the market. That's all. So a whiskey with 15 years of age, like a Dalwhinnie, 15 years old, must not be less good than a $150 expensive, or whatever. Don't blame a special company here, just because it's so rare. No. Then there are sayings like Scotch is better than Irish. You hear also the other way around, Irish is better than Scotch. Well, the relation between those two sayings is, well, like the bottles sold in the market. And because the Irish sell a lot less bottles in the market than the Scottish, well, the meaning is Scotch is better than Irish. You can also take the bourbon. Bourbon is better than Scotch because they have the fresher casks and so on. And I did a video with my friend, not my friend, sorry, with my son. Scotch versus bourbon. Yeah, a little bit funny. And then there is a saying that the whiskey was better in former times. Today everything is crap, and the old whiskey in former times, this was the really good stuff. The good old times where everything was worse. Why had been the whiskey in those old years, why was it better than today? Well, it's sort of relativity. There was the masses of simple whiskey, and you got this outstanding single malt whiskey from whatever, Glenfiddich, Lefroy, or whatever. And the difference between those and the masses was immense. And today, or the time until today, you tasted a few dozen, if not a few hundred whiskies, and you tasted a lot of different ones, and you have a feeling about how whiskey tastes. And today, the old whiskies like a Lefroy or this first Glenfiddich, you say, well, it's not that good as in former years. But this is because all whiskies are so good today. So the difference between this singularity and the masses is no longer there. A lot of companies have increased quality and production so that you're able to find all those whiskies on your shelf at your dealer. But to say in former times the whiskey was better than today, that's not true. The production methods were a lot worse than today. There was far less cleaning. There was no controlled fermentation. There you had vinegar bacteria in your wash. There was a uncontrolled heating and a burning of the residues of the peel of the corn inside of the pot stills of the vessels. It was burned, there were strong, weird taste coming from that. So, no, whiskey hasn't been better in former times. Oh, next question, which distillery to visit? A, as an unexperienced user, connoisseur, or B, an experienced one? I visited 168 or 170 whiskey distilleries so far all around the world, and the best one for a novice, for an entry, is Glenfiddich. They have a wonderful distillery. There are old buildings, there are small old pot stills, and there are a lot of them. and they have from time to time guides which speak different languages. So if you're coming from France or from Germany or from Denmark, then you might find a guide which speaks your language. And this is very important for an unexperienced user, because he will not understand everything what the guide is saying. And if he speaks with a weird Scottish accent, it's even more difficult. The second one was Aberfeldy. Aberfeldy is the home of the Dewars. So they are producing a lot of the lead malt for the Dewars whiskey. And they are, well, they have a wonderful visitor center. They have a film running, multimedia show. They even have tables where you have tasting samples, not from whiskey, but from the ingredients in the whiskey. Ingredients is wrong. The aromas which you typically find in the whiskey, there you have those aromas pure, like vanilla or caramel, citrus, and so on. There are tables, and you can have well, you can guess yourself and have the results afterwards. And the third one is Dallas Dew. Dallas Dew is long gone. It's closed since I think 1980 or 1981, and now it's a museum. And there in this museum you can have a self-guided tour, and there you can walk from place to place and see, well, also behind the still. You can look at everything, and you can touch a still. You have a malting floor. You have everything a normal working distillery, an old working distillery has. And then you have explanation to this. You can have your own pace. You do not have to follow the guide. You can stay a little bit longer at a particular place. So this distillery is really, really good for a new whiskey connoisseur. And which ones are the best ones for experienced users? Well, I have two. I found two. One is Beaumont on Islay, and especially if you're able to have the warehouse tour, where you can go down into the vaults number 1, well below the sea level, and see the water dropping through the walls, and have this damp air in with a lot of, well, oak and alcohol flavors in the air. It's wonderful. And Beaumont also has working malting floors, so you can see how whiskey was made 100 years ago or 50 years ago. So Beaumont has, well, a lot to deliver. The second one is Macallan. Macallan has an incredible amount of pot stills. I think 27 the last time, but they opened the old still house where 4 or 6 are in as well, which is producing since 2008 or 2009 already. And there are those huge warehouses where all those old sherry casks mature. And there are new warehouses from 1995, I think, which are temperature controlled. And they have no air condition, but they can control the airflow in the warehouses. They are wrecked warehouses, and there you can see through all those steel beams and see all those different casks resting there, maturing the whiskey. It's very, very impressive. And there's a new visitor center built, and Macallan delivers a lot. But as with most of the distilleries, you have to call in advance to place a reservation for the tour. Yeah, a few minutes to go. Which whiskey do I want to try, but you are not able to get a bottle or sample? Well, I had a lot of whiskies already, and in those whiskies had been a Black Beaumont 1995, as well as the new Black Beaumont 42 years old. I have a video of this one. So I got a lot of whiskies, also very rare, and there's just one whiskey missing, really missing. I did the video of the Shackleton replica bottle, and the original Shackleton whiskey. This would be a whiskey I would like to put my nose in. The Shackleton whiskey was a supply for the Antarctica mission of Shackleton, and they left behind a case of McKinley's malt whiskey, blended malt whiskey, blend whiskey. I forget what I saw on that bottle. Yeah, and these lay there in Antarctica like in a time capsule. Temperature were below freezing in average, so the oxidization inside the bottle was very, very low. And then in 2011, I think, they took 2 of those bottles, returned them to Scotland, and had a sample. Richard Patterson did it, and he was happy to have that. And from this old taste, they designed a replica, with most of it being 2 casks of Glenmore, I think. Long gone, the distilleries, and this would be a wonderful sample to have. Yeah. The difference is they lay there rested below freezing temperature of water. And this is the difference to those old bottles you're able to see. So the oldest one, I think, is at the Beaumont Distillery, over 100 years old. But they were exposed to oxidization in normal temperatures. The cork had disintegrated, a third of the or a fourth of the volume of the bottle was gone. So there had been changes over the years. Yeah, no good. And the last question. There are several books about whiskey, and in those books you read that only the invention of the column stills made it possible to produce whiskey out of unmalted cereals. Is that true? Was it the column stills? No. There are 3 types of whiskey experts. One are the ones who are expert in tasting. The second ones who are experts in writing or journalism. And the third one are technical experts. And it's very rare to find all those 3 people all 3, I'm missing the word, 3 tasks in one person. Yeah, either you are a journalist, or you are a taster, or you are a technician, but all 3 together are very rare, and so they mix up the technical background of the whiskey. Whiskey is produced by converting sugars into alcohol and then putting into a cask for maturation. And in the corn, the barley corn or the maize corn or the wheat corn, you have starch, and this starch you cut by an enzyme called amylases, and this one is native or common to the barley. Wheat or maize does not have this enzyme in a high volume, not high enough for having the conversion from starch into sugar in industrialized environment. So the maize corn, if it drops to the soil, will have this change, definitely. This change from starch into sugars, and this sugar will then be convert it into celluloses, and the stem and the leaves will start. But for industrialized sizes, this isn't working. So you typically put 10% of barley into a maize and corn mixture, and this enzymes from the barley will work. On the other hand, you can do it by temperature and pressure. I visited the Early Times Distillery more than 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and there they have big cookers. And in these cookers you have a slightly increased pressure, 2 bars I think, or 1.8 bars, 1.8 times of the air pressure, and then hot temperature well above cooking temperature. And with this temperature and pressure, you're cutting the starch into sugars. And this is the real reason why the production of whiskey out of unmalted cereals was possible, and not the column still. The column still did the distilling in a fast speed with a good quality for mass production. But the cookers, those were the real invention for unmalted barley. Yeah, that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. There's more to come. The next month there will be another FAQ, and please feel free to ask your questions. Do it in our forum on Whisky.com or on a comment at the video in our vlog or on YouTube. Thank you very much.